God, it's freezing today. Necron Tesseract Ark or the Doomsday Ark? Which one is the best? Let's find out. It's coming right up.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to keep up to date with all things Necrons, then please subscribe and hit the bell button to turn on all notifications so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so welcome to another Necron video here on the channel. Now today's video is going to be a more chilled, relaxed video as I chat about the Tesseract Ark and the Doomsday Ark. I've been asked the question many times here on the channel about these two tanks. Which one is best? Is it really worth having a Tesseract Ark? Is the Doomsday Ark the best tank that we should be taking? So I'm going to have a closer look at these two units, do some comparisons, and also, of course, some conclusions. Right, here we go. Okay, so first of all, I need to tell you I don't actually own a Tesseract Ark. I want to get one day, but I currently don't own one. So this video is going to be just as interesting to me as hopefully it's going to be to you as we compare these units and actually find out if I should be considering getting a Tesseract Ark. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is why I don't own one, and the main reason for that really is the cost of the Forge World Tesseract Ark, coming in at £67 compared to £32.50 for a Doomsday Ark from Games Workshop. Just quoting the full retail prices here, excluding discounts or any kits that you can buy these models in. So £67 for the Forge World model, £32.50 for the Doomsday Ark. That means you can actually buy two Doomsday Arks for the same cost as a Tesseract Ark. Now you could convert a Tesseract Ark out of two command barges. That would bring the price in at £50, so there would be a saving. Still more expensive than a Doomsday Ark. Now of course command barges are more readily available in things like the Start Collecting box set, and I'm sure you could easily pick them up probably second hand on eBay, not built. So I reckon you could actually convert a Tesseract Ark pretty cheaply out of plastic if you wanted to do that. However, just looking at the standard prices, yeah, £67 is a reasonable amount of money to spend. So that's why I haven't actually got one. Now I think what I would do is put a tick up either side of me for the different units. So in terms of the price, the Doomsday Ark of course gets the first tick. Right, now we're going to have a look at the points cost. Now the Tesseract Ark came down in points quite dramatically. I think it was 220 points previously, and now it's 160 points, which is a dramatic drop. Now you do have to pay points for the weapons, whereas the Doomsday Ark you don't have to. All the weapon options are free, and that is also at a base cost of 160 points. Now the weapon options aren't too dramatically expensive. You've got the Gauss Cannon at 20 points, the Particle Beamer at 10, and the Tesla Cannon at 13 points. However, you need two of these, so you're looking at a minimum of an extra 20 points. You're probably going to take Tesla cannons, which we'll talk more about later on these, so you're looking at an extra 26 points. So the Doomsday Ark is definitely cheaper, and that's going to give it another tick. Okay, so next up is the stat line, so let's have a closer look at these. Now they both deteriorate as they take wounds. In terms of the movement, the Doomsday Ark is 12 inches, which is the same as the Tesseract Ark. We've got a weapon skill of 6, so that's the same. The ballistic skill is the same at 3. And then we come into the changes. So the strength of the Doomsday Ark is slightly more at strength 6 as opposed to 5. However, that really isn't going to make too much of a difference. You're going to try not to get your Doomsday Ark into close combat anyway, so I think that's just sort of irrelevant. Toughness wise though, the Tesseract Ark is toughness 7 as opposed to toughness 6. Now toughness 7 doesn't hit the sweet spot, which really is toughness 8, because even strength 4 weapons are going to be wounding you on 5s. So you really need to be toughness 8 to stop those smaller weapons being able to damage you relatively easy. But toughness 7 is definitely a lot better than toughness 6, so I'll take that. Now in terms of wounds, the Ark, the Doomsday Ark, this is going to be confusing. I'm going to say Doomsday Ark and then I might just say T-Ark for the Tesseract Ark. So the Doomsday Ark has 14 wounds and the T-Ark has 10 wounds. So you get more wounds with the Doomsday Ark. The leadership of course is 10, the same as all Necrons. And then we've got a save of a 4+ on the Doomsday Ark and a nice 3+ save on the Tesseract Ark. So yeah, you've got less wounds, but you've got a better save, and there's more to come regarding the save as well. So in terms of the stat line, I think the Tesseract Ark is definitely going to get a tick for that. Okay, so next let's have a look at the weapons. Now the weapons that come standard with the vehicles, you've got the Doomsday Cannon on the Doomsday Ark, which we know you can shoot in 2 different strengths. So you've got the low power, which is 36 inches, and that's a heavy D6, a strength 8, -2 AP, and does D3 damage. You then have the high powered setting, which is awesome 72 inches. That's a heavy D6 again, strength 10, -5 AP, and D6 damage. Now there is a note on here. Basically, if you move the vehicle, you're unable to shoot the high powered weapon. So even in the Sotek dynasty you can't move and shoot it at that top profile. However, you can shoot at the lower profile with no penalties in the Sotek dynasty, or of course at -1 ballistic skill if you're in a different dynasty. However, if you stay stationary, that is a very nice weapon, with the exception of course that you get random shots and random damage, which is the drawback of the Doomsday Ark, and that's why you see generally at least 2, usually 3 of them in competitive Necron lists, because the more units you have, the more it makes up for the randomness that the gun is. Now in terms of the Tesseract Ark, the T-Ark, it comes with a singularity chamber. Now this chamber actually has an amazing 3 profiles, which is pretty cool. So when attacking this weapon, choose one of the profiles, so it doesn't shoot all of them, just one. So you've got a particle hurricane, which is 8 inches and is an assault D6, -2, and does 1 damage, and that is basically a flamer. However, it doesn't work against vehicles, so this weapon automatically hits its target and wounds on a 2+, regardless, unless it's a vehicle, in which case it wounds on a 6+. So you can still shoot and hit a vehicle, but wounding is on a 6, whereas against infantry it's on a 2. That's a very nice 8-inch flamer option for when you're close or for Overwatch, etc. You then have Seismic Lash, which is 24 inches, like a mid-ranged weapon, and that is an assault D6 at strength 5, -4, and that does a fixed 3 damage. That's a pretty nice mid-ranged weapon. Then you've got the big weapon, which is Solar Fire, and that's 48 inches, so it's not quite as long ranged as on the Doomsday Ark. It's a heavy D6. It's strength 8 and -3, so it's got a similar profile to the low powered Doomsday Ark weapon, but slightly better AP. And again, that does D6 damage, so that's more randomness there. And again, in the Sotek dynasty, you can move and you can shoot that heavy weapon without any penalties. So overall, I think with the 3 different weapon options and almost the same stats, okay, it's slightly less in strength and the AP is slightly less. That -5 AP on the big gun on the Doomsday Ark is very nice. However, I'm going to give a tick to the Tesseract Ark purely because of the different weapon options and to be able to easily move and shoot all of those guns. However, these aren't the only guns on these tanks. So the Doomsday Ark comes with 2 Gauss Flare arrays, which are basically 5 shots each. So you get 10 Gauss Flayers, the same gun as you get on a Warrior. So 24 inches, you've got the rapid fire option, strength 4 and -1 AP. Of course, just the 1 damage. However, when units get close to the Gauss Flayers, they can actually do quite a lot of damage. It's actually nice having the ability to shoot at close range with a good amount of shots, potentially helping you with Overwatch as well, and also to be able to shoot that big gun at long distance. So it's very nice to have that, and of course it does actually make the Doomsday Ark a little bit more versatile than just sitting it and just shooting that big gun. If you're fighting an enemy which doesn't have any tanks or any big targets for that big gun, you could actually use the Doomsday Ark more aggressively and actually move it forward and get those Gauss Flayers into range, and also to help block and bubble wrap other units. So you could build a nice wall if you've got 2 or 3 of those Doomsday Arks and they don't have the right targets to use that big gun. Well, take advantage of the manoeuvrability, the armour, the size of the tank and those Gauss Flayers. So very useful weapon on that particular tank. However, the Tesseract Ark comes with 2 Tesla cannons as standard. Now you can change them. You've got Gauss cannons, the particle beamer. Now the Gauss cannons are 24 inches, they're a heavy 2, strength 5, -3 AP and D3 damage. Very nice, and again, if you're in the Sotek Dynasty, you know, with the heavy weapon, it's going to be very doable. The particle beamer, 24 inches, assault 3, strength 6 with just 1 damage. And then of course the Tesla cannons at 24 inches, assault 3, their strength 6, and they of course generate extra hits on 6s, 2 extra hits on 6s. Now I think personally, if I was playing this, I would go for volume of shot. So I think I would stick with the Tesla cannon personally, but yeah, I'd probably experiment maybe a bit with that, because there are other options there for that particular gun. Now, which one is better? Bearing in mind you've got 2 Tesla cannons, so you'll have effectively 6 shots. Strength 6 is a lot better than strength 4, and you are generating extra hits on 6s. So I think probably, to be fair, those secondary guns are fairly equal, so I'm not going to give a point in either direction. They're only secondary guns. The main points are going to be obviously on those big guns. That's what we're after from these units. After all, they are our anti-tank heavy support units. Okay, so next up I want to talk about the abilities. Now they both have some common ground here, so we've got living metal on both units, regaining 1 wound per turn that you've previously lost, and they both have quantum shielding, which of course is an excellent way to deflect those heavy hitting guns that do a lot of damage. So that's great. Now they both explode, however the Tesseract Ark explodes on a 4+ as opposed to a 6+ on the Doomsday Ark, and that does D3 mortal wounds within 6 inches for units within range. So a little bit easier to explode the Tesseract Ark, which in some ways actually is an advantage, because if you know you're going to get low on wounds and potentially explode, it means that you can start putting it into areas where your enemy is, to try and at least take a few models out as you explode. And of course that sort of matches the fact that the Tesseract Ark seems to be a unit which you can manoeuvre around a little bit more than the Doomsday Ark, which tends to be a little bit more stationary. However, the Tesseract Ark has a containment field, and that gives it a 5+ invulnerable save. How awesome is that? So you have a 3+ save and a 5+ invulnerable save and quantum shielding, and of course living metal, so that makes that very survivable. So I'm liking the saves of the Tesseract Ark a lot more, even though it has less wounds. Now the Tesseract Ark also has gravitational flux, which is basically an anti-assault ability. So when an assault is declared and the dice are rolled for the distance, you have to roll an extra dice, and then you take away the highest dice from the roll, and that's the result. So it's definitely going to reduce the chance of you being assaulted, and that's definitely a bonus. And of course the Doomsday Ark doesn't have that. So that's another tick for the Tesseract Ark. Now in terms of their keywords and their keyword factions, they're basically the same. So they have Necrons and Dynasty, great, and they have vehicle and the fly keyword, which of course is awesome and very, very useful. Okay, so you can see the Tesseract Ark got a lot of ticks there, so I think it's time to summarise, look at the pros and cons, and also conclude today's video. So the Tesseract Ark is very survivable. 3+ save with a 5+ invulnerable save. It's got quantum shielding and living metal. Definitely more survivable than a Doomsday Ark, even though it's got slightly less wounds. Now next is the size of the models. Now the Doomsday Ark is quite big, which as I said can be an advantage, especially if you're pushing them forward in that manner. However, the Tesseract Ark is a lot smaller, and that means it's going to be easier to get it into cover to try to get a 2+ save. So in terms of the size of the models, the Tesseract Ark actually has quite a good advantage. So the Tesseract Ark is definitely more survivable in the assault. First of all, you've got Overwatch, you've got your Flamer, which of course automatically hits. And then you've got your Tesla cannons, assuming you're taking those. Any 6s in Overwatch, of course, still explode, so very useful. Then you've got the ability to potentially reduce the charge distance. Once in close combat, of course, it's very survivable with that 3+ save. And if you do come across something with some heavy hitting weapons, well, you still have a 5+ invulnerable save. And then on top of that, of course, living metal and quantum shielding, which still works in the assault. The Tesseract Ark is definitely very versatile. You could use it like a Doomsday Ark and just sit it at the back, just shooting that long-ranged weapon. However, especially in the Sotek Dynasty, you can actually be a lot more aggressive with these little tanks, pushing them forward, having a mini moving Doomsday Ark, plus all the other great options it has as well. However, it's not all roses, so you do have a slight issue with the Tesseract Ark, and that is if you come across toughness 8 or better units. So the best we've got on this tank is strength 8. Whilst that's very good, if you're up against some big units, it means you're only going to be wounding on 4s or potentially 5s. So the Doomsday Ark definitely has the advantage there with its strength 10, and of course it is -5. So that can really help if you're up against units that don't have an invulnerable save. -3 is still very good on the Tesseract Ark, but of course, strength 10, -5, the Doomsday Ark definitely has a more beefier gun. And I think that really does bring me to only one conclusion, and that is that I believe the best way forward actually is to have both Doomsday Arks and Tesseract Arks. I think an army list with both of these units is going to be a very nice combination. Overall, I think you do have to say that the Tesseract Ark is probably a little bit more versatile, more survivable, and can put out a lot of damage. However, it just can't do the exact same job that a Doomsday Ark can do. And I think both these units working together could be actually a very nice combination. Right, now it's also worth mentioning that some events, some tournaments don't allow you to play with Forge World models. So personally, I would recommend that you start with some Doomsday Arks. That will allow you to have some heavy hitting units in your army, and if you do go to events where Forge World isn't allowed, you still have those units. However, I think it's definitely worth striving to get, or at least to convert, some Tesseract Arks. And in actual fact, that is on my list. I want to either save up for some resin from Forge World or potentially just make my own models out of plastic. So that's what I think of those two units, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments box below. And if you want to see some more versus type videos, then check out my best HQ playlist just there. And if you're not subscribed yet, start now and hit the Idic Beer icon. Beam me up!